Hello and good morning. Today is Friday, November 27th. This is week 8 of the quarter, and it's Thanksgiving week. So I want to wish you all a very happy remainder of your Thanksgiving holiday. I hope that you're having a peaceful, rejuvenating, and safe holiday, first and foremost. And I want to remind you of what's coming up for the last couple weeks of the quarter when you return to your work over the weekend and into next week. So this, as I said, is week 8. Week 9 is next week. Week 9 will be the final assignment for the quarter, assignment number 7, scheduled for week 9, and you will follow the exact same procedure that you followed for all the other assignments before. As I'm sure most of you by now know, the assignment was posted several days ago. It's up on GauchoSpace, and so you can go ahead and work on that and complete that now. That will happen week 9. At the end of week 9, many of you will be done with your assignments for the course. If you fall into that category, congratulations, you're going to be done very soon. For those of you who received an unsatisfactory or U grade on one of your assignments, or were not able to submit one of your assignments for any reason, then you have week 10 to make up that assignment. You can make up one assignment week 10, and in order to do that makeup, you should follow the instructions that your TA gives you in your discussion sections in week 9 or by email. So go ahead and make sure to do that if you missed an assignment. Hopefully having this makeup week in week 10 will provide all of you with every opportunity to do well in this course during this bizarre and unprecedented fall quarter of 2020. I also just want to take a moment again to acknowledge how challenging this quarter has been for all of us. I know that what I've been able to provide you in ES1 this quarter is significantly diminished from what I try to provide in a normal quarter. My goals for this quarter, again, as I've told you on several occasions, have been to get folks engaged, to give you interesting materials, to think about activities, to give you an opportunity to reflect on those activities on your own, and then to give you an opportunity to discuss those materials with your TA, in particular with small groups, your pods in discussion sections, in a way that enriches your understanding of environmental studies, gets you interested in the subject matter, keeps your attention hopefully for 10 weeks, and keeps you coming back for more advanced coursework during a time, hopefully not in the not too distant future, when we'll all be able to return to campus together. I want to remind you that ES1 is ES1. It's the first course in the introductory series that leads to the broader environmental studies curriculum. If you feel like maybe you haven't gotten all the things you've wanted this quarter, or if you feel like there have been concepts that have flown by you pretty quick without an opportunity to think that deeply about them or have them explained in depth, well, you're right. But remember, because ES1 is ES1, if you continue on with our curriculum here in the Environmental Studies program, then you'll have an opportunity to sink your teeth into all of these concepts in more advanced coursework. Every single concept that we've touched on very briefly this quarter is discussed in far more depth in another environmental studies course, or in many cases in several courses. For example, in our discussions about biological diversity and conservation, we've touched on a variety of concepts about the nature of biodiversity, about conservation, about its relationship to human societies and human health. These are topics that are covered in a wide range of courses, from endangered species management in environmental studies to courses like conservation biology in the Ecology, Evolution, and Marine Biology program, to my own course on Wildlife 108W, which I often offer either during the fall or the winter each year. And so if you're interested in those things, I encourage you to continue on with your coursework. Again, hopefully at a time when we can do this in more in depth and in person. And so I encourage you strongly to do that, particularly if you have remaining questions, if you're struggling with concepts, and if your interest has been piqued in a way that makes you want to continue down this road in our outstanding environmental studies major. As I know many of you are aware, and as I know many of you have commented, the materials for this quarter have been pretty heavy. Environmental studies today involves grappling with large-scale issues that sometimes seem as if they're nearly impossible to address. They're incredibly complicated, and they involve a level of knowledge and perseverance and collective action that sometimes seems nearly impossible for us to muster in our contested social and political environment of today. Many of you have expressed this to me throughout the quarter. I want you to know that environmental studies is not all heavy, it's not all a downer. We also spend a lot of time in our program talking with students and training our students to think about creative and original solutions to pressing environmental problems. And so that's where we turn for the final week of this course. We only have 1 week where we're really talking about solutions here, whereas last year, in fact, I spent the entire quarter talking about solutions. But I want you to know that other courses that you sign up for in the environmental studies program will include some balance between analyzing and understanding problems and then thinking about and designing and implementing solutions. And so that's something that you can really look forward to in further study in the environmental studies program and on the environment more generally here at UCSB. Now I would like to briefly turn to your final assignment, weekly assignment number 7, which you have due next week, week 9. As I said, it's the same structure, same process as all of the assignments, the 6 assignments you've done previously, except that this one is focused specifically on solutions. For this assignment, I've given you 5 activities. We cut down the number of activities a little bit over the course of the quarter from 7 or 8 activities now to 5 at the end. But these cover a wide range of topics and approaches. And so I want you to think not just about the material that is directly presented in each of these 5 activities for week 7, but also about the category of solutions that each activity represents. So let me explain what I mean. Activity 7A focuses on eating, focuses on our diet. We are what we eat, right? But also, in a sense, the planet is increasingly what we eat because human diets dramatically affect the environment in which we all live. The energy and resources and lands that go into producing our food, the distribution systems and processing systems that bring it to us, the way we consume it, what we don't consume in terms of food waste, and then the way in which we dispose of these things that are products of our food consumption, all affect the environment in dramatic ways. In fact, if food waste alone in the United States was its own country, it would be the 3rd greatest emitter of carbon emissions in the world on a national level after China and the United States. You can believe that. That's incredible, right? And so this is just to emphasize the fact that that diets are incredibly important. Diet is usually something that we think about as an individual choice. And this is the important thing about 7A. So when you read 7A, I want you to think about how individual consumer choices, like the food we eat, shape not only the environment, but the degree to which our ability to enact positive environmental change, to promote environmental change, can be achieved through individual consumer actions. Do you believe that this is possible? Do you believe that this is unlikely? Why or why not? Based on this example of diet. And so activity 7A really tries to focus you in on our individual decisions, which are often consumer decisions in our society, and the potential for individual decisions to make a positive or negative difference. That's activity 7A, and it involves individual decisions. Activity 7B shifts the focus from individual decisions to policy. Activity 7A looks at some of the challenges and opportunities, the policy agenda for the environment, particularly around climate change, of President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris and the Biden administration. And so activity 7B shifts the focus from individual actions to policy. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? What are the prospects for making positive environmental change with policy interventions at the national level of the kind that the Biden administration appears to be proposing and working up to developing as we head toward the inauguration in January. Activity 7C refocuses us again. For activity 7C, we're talking about social activism, including direct action like protest, but social action in terms of mobilization in groups that try to advance particular policy agendas or raise awareness about environmental problems or injustices. Activity 7C is a video that can be a little bit hard to watch because it depicts violence related to the Standing Rock protests in the Dakotas a few years ago and some of the events that unfolded during that very tense time. I want to make you aware of that so that you know to look out for that and think about that as you go into activity 7C. But I believe that it's important enough and useful enough for us to integrate into this course curriculum. And so when you're watching video 7C, when you're watching activity 7C, I want you to think about what are the possibilities and the limitations of direct action in the form of groups coming together to protest, to push policy, and to raise awareness about environmental problems and injustices. That's 7C. It's pretty different than 7A and 7B. Activity 7D again refocuses us to a different kind of set of solutions, particularly technology. So activity 7D asks us to think about how technology can help us address the challenge of climate change. What are the possibilities of technologies like carbon capture and storage that would allow us to remove carbon from the atmosphere? So we know it's building up, of course, and then to store it in a way that prevents some of the worst consequences of our emissions, of our land use change, of the various forces that are causing the atmosphere to change, greenhouse gases to build up, resulting in global climate change. So 7D takes the focus away from individual action, policy action, social action in the form of protest, and focuses it on technology. Finally, activity 7D refocuses us again to think about something a lot of us probably don't think about that much as being directly related to the environment, which is the financial system. Activist Bill McKibben, who has been a long-time public intellectual and proponent of aggressive action to stem climate change and other global environmental problems, proposes to us in this article that maybe one of the best ways to address climate change is to focus on the financial elements of it and to pressure banks and insurance companies into rethinking the way that they bankroll, that they finance, that they support industries, corporations, technologies, and even governments that are engaged in activities that jeopardize our climate and that jeopardize our quality of life on this planet, right? And so altogether, these 5 activities present 5 different kinds of approaches at different levels of social organization, you could say, to try to deal with, to try to fix, to try to ameliorate global environmental problems and also local environmental problems. A couple points I want to make about these. One is that the local and the global are very much connected. So the Standing Rock protests, for example, about a more local issue of the construction of a pipeline and its potential effects on sacred indigenous lands and also water quality in that region, is very much related to conversations about global climate change. The local, the national, the global, all connected at different scales, but in really important and profound ways. The second point I would like to make is that these approaches all have opportunities and limitations. So the goal here is for you to think just a little bit about these opportunities and limitations. As I mentioned briefly just a couple minutes ago, last year, I spent the entire fall quarter in ES1 talking about different approaches to solutions, to environmental solutions, what their opportunities and limitations were, and then trying to give students a much more in-depth opportunity to think through these. This quarter has been really different for obvious reasons. Now you have an opportunity to think through these challenges and opportunities, and to do so in a way that hopefully gives you a springboard onto future coursework and future work in environmental studies. The final point I would like to make, the third point about these, is that these solutions are not mutually exclusive. One can make an individual decision, for example, to eat in a way that's a relatively low impact climate diet, while at the same time supporting national environmental policies that are aimed at addressing climate change and ameliorating climate change, while at the same time going to a protest. You can do all of those things at once. We can all be involved in a lot of different things depending on what our skills are, our talents are, our desires, our predilections, and our abilities based on who we are and the privileges that we have or that we lack in our socioeconomic system in which we live. And so I want you to keep those 3 points in mind as you go through the activities for this week, as you read them, as you watch them, and to start thinking about the kinds of solutions that could really get us pointed back in the right direction, as opposed to, frankly, in the wrong direction with regard to the health and well-being of our environment, people, and also the other species with which we share it, which we've been going in for quite a while now. So hopefully this week will give you an opportunity to think about that, and it'll leave you on a positive, empowered note, thinking about the kind of solutions that might actually make a real difference. Hopefully it'll also give you a little bit more inspiration to continue on with environmental studies in the future in more advanced coursework. I will appear again next week in a final video addressed to you to think about what we've done and where this all goes from here, so we can look forward to that. I want to remind you that I will be back in office hours again this week in week 10. And I want to just encourage you to reach out to me in any way that you can. I appreciate the folks who've come into office hours, who sent me emails thanking me and the TAs for the things that we've done for you this quarter. I think that we all feel a little bit frustrated that we haven't been able to do more, but I hope that what we have been able to do meets those initial goals of getting folks engaged, of getting you interested, and of inspiring you to continue on in environmental studies. Good luck with weekly assignment number 7. Again, I hope you have a happy and healthy remainder of your Thanksgiving holiday, and I look forward to seeing and speaking with you again in the near future. Thank you.